All right, yes indeed, it is. Once again, time for a special edition of the Kanika Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Kenny, and I am joined once again this afternoon by my lovely co-host and my beautiful wife, decked out in Cubbies gear today, everybody, and a little Padres pants.
A mishmash of things.
It's Nika. Good afternoon, Nika. The mishmash.
Thanks. Hello to our new returning listeners, to everybody out there, I guess.
Hello to those of you who have started listening to us on YouTube, everybody, as Nika has been expanding our audience base.
Yes, I'm trying. It's very convoluted with that YouTube stuff, but
It seems like it. I think maybe you need to download that other video and try posting it again today, especially with this topic. This is a fun topic to talk about, y'all. We got a special episode I mentioned. Yes, y'all. I said y'all.
We are not in Texas, but we might
We're
be.
not, but the locals could be rubbing off on us, I guess.
Yeah.
Some of the radio stations over here on western Arizona. Anyhow, we have a special episode today because I wanted to get this out there and out to our listeners before this week's NFL championship weekend. And we are diverting our attention a little bit away from the great game of baseball for a brief moment here because something caught my eye over the weekend and I want to get into it. But before we do, we've been following the Bears.
The Bears. The Bears.
That's our team. Yeah, it was a rough season. It didn't go as I think a lot of people wanted to see it go, especially after all the big offseason draft picks and everything that came with that, all the new publicity, the hard knocks. You know, I think there was optimism heading into the season that at least maybe this might be a playoff team. And even after the 6th week of the season, the Bears were 4-2 when they came back from London, which was a game against the Jaguars that they played. And then everything went to hell, right? They didn't win for like a ton of games. They were 4-12 going into their last game and wound up actually beating the Packers, ending on a weird high note that saw their coach get fired in the middle of the season for the first time in franchise history. And that's saying something since they are the official oldest franchise in the NFL.
I think the Bears just plateaued in England.
Yeah, they played Washington after that, the first game out of the bye week, and that was the game that they took the lead in the fourth quarter on the last drive of the game, and there was 19 seconds left when they kicked the ball off and somehow managed to lose on a Hail Mary. That's when the season went to hell, and Washington, on the other hand, finds themselves in the NFC Championship game with their rookie quarterback, number 2 overall pick, Jaden Daniels. We're going to talk about him, I promise, in 1 second. But it's been exciting as a Bears fan to finally see something happen at the head coaching position that hasn't happened really since Mike Ditka came to the team, which is even before I was like coherent. I think I was alive, but I wasn't coherent yet. I was 2, maybe 1. I don't remember. Anyhow, I might have even been 0 if it was like if I was born in fall of 81 or late summer 81, and then if the Bears like fired their coach in 82 following the end of the 81 season, like in January, and then hired Ditka. So I could have been 0 technically still when they hired Mike Ditka. Anyhow, good times. The Bears. We got a new coach. We spent money. And it seems like for once that the GM, coach, and quarterback are going to be aligned. And, well, we'll see.
Well, you have to go back to the Hard Knocks because that was the whole show with the Bears felt forced. And if anything, that was an indication how the whole season's going to go.
It came across as like corporatized Chicago, right? Like they were showing like the ice cream shop on Michigan Avenue and the L train and like
Filler.
the staples of like iconography and instead of talking about the actual team.
And the dynamics between Eberflus and Caleb.
There is a stark
Non-existent.
contrast, actually. If you watch Hard Knocks, if you watch those 5 episodes, and then you look at this press conference and everything that's happened with the Bears this week, somebody pointed out they don't talk about the history. Like George Halas has not been mentioned once. Like the founder of the Bears, the NFL, the team. Before this, there's always been this, like, we got to pay respects and kiss the ring. And George Halas' family still owns the Bears.
Now, did God create the Bears and make them superior to all other teams? Or is he simply a huge fan and Ditka made them superior to all other teams?
It's a tough one.
And right now it's the grandkid, George McCaskey, who is like the face of all of this. But I think a couple of the other McCaskey kids have had a turn at the wheel. But I got to give this McCaskey credit for actually opening up his checkbook, and because this coach is not cheap. He was sought after, and the Bears were very savvy apparently, and it's the Lions lost this weekend. They were probably supposed to win this game.
I know they were the favorite to win. I was all into the Lions. I thought they're going to
we
win.
were kind of excited for the Lions, honestly,
was a
because
great
it just
game.
doesn't feel like they're going to necessarily have a lot of stabs at the apple tree, that their window's already closing. They lost both their coordinators. Their offensive coordinator is the new Bears coach. Their defensive coordinator is now the head coach of the New York Jets. So it happens fast, and your window closes fast, and they were good last year too. So it's like, and you see the other teams in the division getting better, the Vikings, even the Packers, and now the Bears. So
that remains to be seen how they're going to do next season. However, the Lions were gutted, no doubt about it.
Well, their coaching staff, not their players
Not
per
the
se.
players. Their head coach is still there, and
Yes.
he will remain.
Yes. They're not going to roll over.
Yeah.
I don't expect the Lions to just become bad again and the laughingstock of the division. And I hope they don't, honestly. I hope that our division is the best division in football. It's where the game was founded. It should be the best division in football as far as I'm concerned. I was really excited about the coach, the Bears hiring Ben Johnson as their new coach, and I'm anxiously excited to see what they do. But that's in the future. And what caught my attention over the weekend is in the present and in the now, and something I think we can all look at this weekend and see. But back to that Lions game this past weekend, I was in awe, I think, a little bit of Jaden Daniels and his poise and how well he played in this quote-unquote grand stage game on the road in the playoffs in a hostile environment. You're playing against the number 1 seed, and he made it look like he wasn't even sweating out there, Nika. We were watching this, and he made it look like video game easy. The next day, as we were watching the Sunday playoff games, a thread came across my Twitter feed, and I couldn't help but get into it and get kind of, my mind started racing, and I knew right then and there that we were going to do an episode about this topic because it's just too interesting not to talk about. So without further ado, are you ready to get into it,
Sure.
my love?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This is from Todd Jacob on X, formerly known as Twitter, of course. And he can be found at the Todd Jacob if you are so inclined to look this up. And I highly recommend that you do because there's a lot of visual aids that go along with this presentation that don't come through quite on the airwaves.
Okay.
But nevertheless, I will do my best to describe what it is we're seeing. And if you've never seen a thread on X before, this is going to be a thread. And a thread is basically like a series of posts that you're meant to read in order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's because of character limitations on Twitter. So without further ado, I just want to kind of kick this off. Thank you, Todd Jacob, for compiling this. And here we go. Jaden Daniels made VR training a condition for any team drafting him. Now he's NFL Rookie of the Year and 1 game away from the Super Bowl. His edge? ? Training his brain at 1.75x speed. And this is the story of the first QB 2.0, a thread by Todd Jacob.
Okay.
Number 1, He says, picture this. 10 interceptions haunting his dreams. Confidence shattered. Both grandparents lost to COVID within weeks. A once promising career hanging on by a thread. The football world had written him off, but they did not know what was coming. This is, I guess, how he kicks off the story of Jaden Daniels, if you will. So he says the turning point, this is now slide number 2. The turning point wasn't the one everyone saw. Jaden Daniels transferred to Louisiana State University after his first year, which a lot of quarterbacks do. Caleb Williams also did this. He went from somewhere, I think Oklahoma or somewhere in that area, to California. Daniels transferred to LSU. He showed flashes of brilliance, but he was still a mid-round draft prospect at best. Something was missing. Then 2 German entrepreneurs changed everything. Slide number 3. Enter Verena Kau and Christian Hartman. Founded Cognalize, a VR company originally built for soccer. European football, as they say. Business was struggling and they needed a breakthrough. And it shows a picture of them smiling together, and above it, it says they had no idea they were about to revolutionize football. American spelling. All right, moving on to slide number 4. Meanwhile, at LSU, Jack Marucci and Mario Malcaluso were drowning in emails. Hundreds of companies promised, quote, the next big thing in sports tech. But when they saw Cognizize's early prototype, something clicked. The future of quarterback development was about to be rewritten. And it says Jack Marucci is the director of performance innovation, and Mario Malcaluso is his assistant in the pictures that I'm looking at. And this says the cutting edge with Jack Marucci.
They are both staffers at LSU.
There you go.
They are staffers and the partners with the company.
That's why she's the best in the business, folks. Nika, always there with the assist when I need it. She knew I needed it, and she delivered. That a girl. Thank you so much. All right. Moving on to the next slide here. I'm losing track already. Are we on 4 or 5? Who knows?
5.
I'm just going in order.
How many slides are there?
Well, we're just going through. The next slide. Week 3, 2023 season. Just very short, a year and a half ago. Daniels strapped on the VR headset for the first time. The coaching staff held their breath. The German team watched nervously. Even Daniels wasn't sure what to expect. Then he stepped onto the field against Mississippi State. And this is in the headset. The numbers tell one story. So this is who he played that week. And this is what the first time that they used the headset to train him for the game, right? So after that, the game itself happened over the weekend, and these were his numbers. 30 of 34 completions, 361 passing yards, 4 total touchdowns, 400-plus yards of offense. The real story? The game had, quote, slowed down, end quote. Everything felt familiar. Why? Because he'd already seen it all. And then it moves on to the next slide. But before it does, I just want to point out there's a video aid here for the first time. And we see different people wearing the headset. And we see Jack Marucci here explaining the headset. And we kind of get to see a little peek at it. And we get to see, like, basically, this is a real VR simulation. You're seeing the world through the eyes of the headset. It's first-person shooter style. You're walking through it. It's your eyes, right? All right. So, on to the next slide. This is where it really gets interesting, Nika. We have the secret wasn't just the VR. It was how they used it. Speed manipulation. Everything runs at 1.75x speed. Defenses move faster than real life. Brain adapts to heightened pace. Real games feel slower. Bullet point 2, cognitive rewiring. 250 to 300 extra repetitions per week. Thousands of mental repetitions. 0 physical toll on the body. Pure neural adaptation. Nika, this reminded me of you so much because of the way that you have started to listen to podcasts and audiobooks in your life. Can you please explain to the audience how you listen to books now?
A lot of times I listen on 1.5 speed, 1.5, mostly audiobooks. 1.5, sometimes 1.7. The podcast, it depends on the podcast. But yes, my player is set up 1.25 all the time.
Wow.
It's always on a higher speed.
And what happens when you hear stuff on normal speed now?
I can't. It's so boring.
It feels really draggy, right?
Yes, and my attention span is my brain gets bored. I'm trying to find something else to do meanwhile that thing is playing. It doesn't work for me anymore on the normal speed.
Yeah.
Audiobooks, I cannot tell you how slow they sound on a normal speed.
Well, in a way, you've unlocked like a cheat code that allows you to get through more audiobooks and podcasts in the same amount of time as the average person might do it. And you're not alone in this behavior. Other people have gotten onto this level of training their brain basically to keep up with the faster delivery.
You spot on. But that comes from the faster edits on TV, faster, shorter videos that we watch a lot of times.
Yeah.
The shorts, everything moves so much faster. Even
Right.
watching a movie right now that it takes 20 minutes to get into, it's boring.
Well, and we are conditioned with Instagram and with YouTube Shorts and TikTok now to, have our entertainment delivered to us in like 60 or 90-second doses. And what happens is, in order to do that, the content creators themselves, like you and me, we will try to remove all the fluff or all the pauses or awkward mistakes, anything that is killing time, like I'm doing right now, explaining it. that really made Nika smile, everyone.
You're right. We are conditioning better. We are conditioning different. And we are learning how to process information faster. Our eyes absorb everything faster. Our ears absorb things faster. We put in a movie that was made in the 80s or 70s and they drag on.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, not all.
And then when a movie doesn't feel like it, like The French Connection, when we were watching the Gene Hackman chase scene down the street with the elevated train, we were like, this feels really modern, pacing wise. It didn't feel like sluggish. So there are outliers in history, and those are going to be the ones that I think we look back on and be like, this was really groundbreaking. These were the movies that propelled us into the future, and we didn't know it. And we forget all too easily.
You're right. And also the movie makers right now, or the show makers, runners, they don't take this under consideration. We watched Ahsoka on Disney. I cannot watch that show.
It's supposed to be action, adventure, fun.
And
it just feels like the opposite sometimes. It's like, this is not the time for this.
No, that could have worked 50 years ago.
Potentially, yeah.
Not in the modern cinema, not in the modern viewing.
I would even argue, though, that the original Star Wars movies moved at a better clip than that show.
Right.
So, well, back to the subject matter at hand, because you said something that we're training our ears to hear faster and we're training our eyes to see faster, kind of. And I feel like when you said the eye part is what I want to focus on, because the speed manipulation that we mentioned in that thread in the Twitter slide that we were reading is really what I want to focus on here, because it feels like he's cheating. He's playing the game at like 1.75 times faster than what the people are capable of playing at. And then when he's now taking in everything in real time a lot quicker. His whole perception of 100% speed is way faster now than anyone else. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
I'm not saying he's cheating in real, by the way. I'm just saying like he's
You're
figured
not
out a way to condition his brain to
He's processing information quicker because he's been trained to do that with this software. And that software is catered towards his cognitive abilities, his biometrics.
Yes.
And it uses neuroscience to do that.
But his body language is telling me this, because I see him on the sidelines and he's like He's just chill, and he's like, yeah, this is cool. It's easy. That's what he looked like to me against the Lions in the biggest game of his life. I'm really excited, and I can't wait to watch him play this weekend,
Well-
knowing all this now. Because I didn't know this when we watched him in the game the other night.
Well, you also have to mention that there are other VR companies that been used, other NFL teams, MLB teams, sports in general have been using VR to help train their players.
For sure.
But they are not the same as what Daniels is using.
Well, let's get back to the thread, and we can talk about those differences as they maybe come up. But I think the biggest one is the speed manipulation, right?
I would say so.
All right, let's take that in mind as we go through the rest of this thread. It says on the next slide, it says the real breakthrough came when he had a concussion. He had to play Florida, and the Heisman was on the line. He couldn't practice all week, and the doctors barely cleared him to play Saturday morning. Most quarterbacks would crumble. Daniels put up 600 total yards. How? Question mark. Next slide. While his body healed, his mind kept working, running through scenarios, reading defenses, processing coverages, building mental maps. The VR didn't just supplement his training, it transformed how his brain processed football. Next slide. The technology is mind-bending. Eye tracking shows exactly where QBs look, stadium-specific details down to scoreboard locations, every defensive scheme imaginable, real play calls recorded by coaches, custom built for each opponent. But that's not the real story. The real story is psychological. Next slide. When most rookies see NFL defenses, their minds race. Processing speed overwhelms them, confidence wavers, decision-making slows, pressure builds. Daniels, quote, he's seen it all 1.75 times faster. The numbers tell all the transformation. The numbers tell the transformation, sorry. Pre-VR, he never topped 3,000 passing yards. His career high was 17 touchdowns, and he was projected out to be a mid-round draft prospect. After putting on the VR headset, he threw for nearly 4,000 yards, had 40 touchdowns, won the Heisman Trophy, and became the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. And you know what? If the Bears might have interviewed him, which they did not, because they had already made up their minds that they were going to take Caleb Williams, they might have found out about his VR training program.
But the program you're talking about at LSU, he's been using it, and it was catered towards him. That specific software, they were the beta testers for it. They catered everything towards Daniels. It wasn't catered towards any other player. That's a huge difference.
All right. Well, there's 5 more slides I want to read from this thread for everyone, and it kind of gets into what you're saying, and I guess this is why I feel like the Bears should have interviewed him, no matter what.
Sure.
Is because of what came next. It says, here's what everyone missed. Daniels made VR adoption a condition for drafting him. Think about that. A rookie quarterback so convinced by technology that he staked his NFL future on it. The Commanders didn't hesitate. They saw what we're all seeing now. That might be a little embellished. I don't know if they could see it until they see the actual play on the field as a result of it at the NFL level, right? College is one thing, but the NFL game is much different.
But the difference in this VR is reality. It looks just like a reality versus every other VR out there looks like a game. Everything looks robotic. And in this one does not.
It says in the next slide, the future arrived quietly in a German software lab through an LSU tech department via a desperate transfer quarterback during a concussion week. Now it's reshaping football's future. Next slide. Every great revolution looks obvious in hindsight. Of course QBs should train their minds at higher speeds. Of course they need thousands of mental reps. Of course virtual preparation matters. Of course the brain can be rewired. But someone had to go first. Peyton Manning once said, pressure is something you feel when you don't know what you're doing. Daniels redefined this for the digital age. When you've seen everything at 1.75x speed, nothing surprises you. the game becomes a rerun of scenarios that you've already mastered. We're witnessing the birth of quarterback 2.0. Mental reps without physical toll, accelerated cognitive development, perfect preparation simulation, psychological mastery. Daniels isn't just playing quarterback. He's showing us how every quarterback will train in the future. That's where I'm going to leave this thread, written by Todd Jacob, everyone, once again, at the Todd Jacob on X and at Twitter. And wow, Nika, this really tells it all a lot for me. From what I saw on the field Saturday and then reading this on Sunday, it all clicked for me. It's like this guy has figured out something that no one else has yet, and that's why he looks like the way he does as a rookie.
Well, you can't say nobody has it. Nobody has that kind of a software, but all NFL teams use VR for training. They just don't use that specific company.
Yeah, it is interesting. You wonder if it's the perfect marriage of tech company and player. If it matters just as much that Daniels is the guy, would it work the same with Caleb Williams or Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy or take your pick? Would it work the same for Lamar Jackson? Or is it just this unique marriage that was what makes it work? I don't know.
Well, the founders of the company, they were flying to U.S. few times before getting this partnership with LSU. They were going to high school coaches and college coaches. And everybody was just like, we already have this.
Yeah, it feels like a gimmick, I think, to everyone until it doesn't.
Results.
Until it produces results.
Exactly. And that's a lot of companies.
Yeah, that's the world we live in. It's so hard to cut through the noise. And when everyone says, oh, we've got a VR product and whatnot, it becomes a lot of noise and a lot of, well, it's great, but it's not the real thing. And,
right,
and this feels like this isn't the real thing, but it's doing something that is training-wise giving you an edge. And it really reminded me of Bodie Miller, the skier. He developed a training method in private that no one else had before the Olympics and wound up blowing everyone away.
But this reality, this VR set has very realistic stadiums, everything to the clock, scoreboard, everything looks like you are in that stadium, where with other VRs it's just a stadium.
Yeah, you've heard
doesn't have the
teams,
details.
will like practice indoors when they have to play. Like at Detroit has an indoor stadium in a playoff environment. They might go inside their practice facility and bring in big speakers to try and pump in and simulate that noise. And yet now you can probably do the same thing in the VR simulator and have the headphones be a part of it too and pump in that noise while all this other traffic is coming at you. And then as it's happening in real life, maybe it doesn't feel as overwhelming.
Right. You're already used to that. Your brain is used to this noise and all that stuff that comes with that.
You're used to it in the sense that like it doesn't overwhelm your body and your performance. Like there was a couple throws he made that just looked like it reminded you of watching the superheroes in movies when they slow down time and show like fun. Like I don't want to talk about the Flash because that was not a good use of it, but
Matrix.
in X-Men or Matrix, X-Men had the silver-haired kid. That was a funny scene that they did where they slowed down time and showed all these funny things happening when he was like rearranging the furniture and their clothing and like people's outfits. And yeah, they were having fun with it. And that was a fun use of that effect. But it makes you feel like that when you watch him play a little bit where he's like,
yeah, it does. It really does.
How did he see that opening there? Or how did he make that play? And then they cut to him on the sidelines and he's just like chilling. Yeah, I'm cool.
I think we're going to see more and more of this technology coming to every single sport and being utilized a lot better.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Nika, because we need to talk about our sport, baseball, and how this is going to start to impact the game. Is it already,
Well, we know they use VR in baseball because a lot of times when the players are coming off an injury, the announcers will say they had a simulated games or they had so many simulated games.
Yeah. So this all got me to do a little bit of digging, and I think we even talked about this last year on our podcast. But there is a company called Traject, and ESPN wrote an article about them. It says face any pitcher anytime inside MLB's new Traject tech. And this is not VR. This is just a video projection of a pitcher like at 60 feet away, with a opening for the ball to come out
So
of.
it's not a VR.
It's not.
Oh, that's not the same.
I know it's not the same.
You can't.
It's still technology, though,
Sure.
being used in new ways because
Sure.
they've programmed like 1,500 pitchers into this thing now, and everything up to their movements of their body, but the way the ball spins out of their hand is able to be replicated by this machine.
Okay, fine. I still believe they need to move up, leveled up to a VR sets.
They do, and that will save space. Think about that. They could have like 3 guys swinging bats in the same amount of space as they have this whole setup going, and they won't need to bring this whole machine right now that is required to set up this projection and make it look so real. And it seems like a bit clunky is its major drawback.
Yeah, I thought they use VR sets, but they should use a VR set with an actual bat and try to swing the same way as they would swing on the field for the ball that's coming out, or maybe even doing the ball coming faster with different speeds. So
That's
you
what I
can
mean.
recognize
Like
it
this.
better.
This is what this got me thinking. The whole Jaden Daniels playing the game at a higher speed. Like, is this something that can be replicated in baseball? And of course, like you hit, like the ball's coming at you at a certain speed, and in a virtual reality simulation now, like we already have technology that we see being used where they're programming pitchers and their movements and their pitches into a machine. And so, of course, they can put that into a VR. And what I'm just wondering is, like, I feel like hitters are about to enter into the golden age of hitting with technology. Unless pitchers, like, never decide to throw a strike again, like Blake Snell sometimes does, what are they going to do?
No, I agree with you on that. I'm thinking about the talking heads on TV when they see hitters. Oh my God, we're going to have this golden age of hitting and everybody going to have a homers. And that's not the case.
Yeah, I get it. You don't want that. You
No.
still have to have proper hitting fundamentals. You still have to use all fields. If someone throws you a curveball on the outer half of the plate, you got to hit that pitch to the opposite field and maybe not try to hit a home run every time.
Right.
Like, I don't know. There's only certain guys that can do it. And I guess the point is, though, I feel like hitters are just going to be able to start cranking it up to maybe like 105, 110 miles an hour in the VR, even if the pitcher can't throw that fast.
Yeah, but
What's
at
to
least
stop
you
them
know
from
what-
training their brain to start reacting at pitches that
Exactly.
fast so that when they're in an actual game, it feels like they're playing Little League again?
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea to train your brain to see things coming faster so you at least prepare yourself better.
Well, and so
And not be
you
afraid
can
of the
understand,
picture.
though, like why there's guys in this article. I'm trying to find out that there's a specific pitcher. Not everyone's a fan of this technology, especially pitchers. And
Of course
and
they're
they're
not.
like looking at this going like, well, this is cheating. They can hit off of me all day long. I can't throw all day long. I can't throw to batters all day long.
That's
Hitting
fair.
is not the same physical toll that throwing a ball is.
Right, but that's why you pitching every fifth day. You get rest. And if you have a good clubhouse, they will make sure your arm is healthy all the time.
For sure. I think all good things need to come in moderation, and you need to make sure that you don't overdo it on virtual reality swings and underdo it on like swings that build up your calluses on your hands and make your hands strong. And that you need a real ball and a real bat to do that.
And yeah, we also have to put ball in play, so the defense has to work. The defensive players have to have their Golden Gloves trophies. All that stuff has to be taken
Yeah,
under
I don't want
consideration.
pitchers throwing 120 pitches a game to get through 7 innings anymore. Like,
Right.
you got to trust your defense like Greg Maddux used to and learn to let guys hit the ball a little bit. They're not all superhumans. they are prone to make mistakes too. It'll be interesting to see how everybody adapts to this over time, pitchers especially. Are they going to have to get more creative in how they choose their pitches? It's all still chess at the end of the day.
You know,
and one thing Greg Maddux did do, speaking of, is that he learned to vary every pitch's speed. You know, he never threw the same pitch twice to the same hitter in the same at bat, the same speed.
well, it will force the pitchers to create more pitches. It's not going to be, I only have 2 kinds of pitches and that's it. You're going to have to get
Somebody's going to be throwing that gyro ball.
whatever. get creative, come up with different ways to pitch.
What
Don't
pitch
be
is that?
afraid.
The spiral gyro. I kid. I just feel like it's the Eliminator. I've heard all these fun names for pitches over the years, and it's
Okay,
like
fine.
there's
That's
only so
fun.
many ways you can spin a baseball.
Okay, but you can adjust your trajectory. You can adjust the way you torque. That you can adjust the speed of the ball.
Yes, you can. Those are the things that I think you're going to have to really hone in on if you're a pitcher. And that goes against a lot of what modern pitching is about. Modern pitching is about chasing heat, and it's going to have to
Losing
become more
arms.
about location and
Oh,
varying
gosh.
your speed and learning how to actually pitch again, maybe.
Maybe that's a good way for baseball to go back to
Yeah.
its origins.
Well, you and I always talk about the baseball universe and things needing to come back into balance. And we live in an era right now where it's like, you know, pitching is at a premium, but like the elite pitchers, Paul Skeens, Garrett Cole included, and everyone in that level is hard to hit, you know? Like Garrett Cole showed up in his playoff games. I think I don't know if he got hit in that World Series game, but you know, we were kind of tuned out of baseball by then. But you know, they're tough to hit for a reason.
Yeah.
And yet they probably don't like the fact that somebody can go into a simulator and hit off of them all day long and start to maybe learn
Well,
how to face them.
pitchers can use the simulators as well.
Right, but I mean, like I said, the hitting, you can go do it every day and exhaust yourself, especially in the off season, without doing long-term damage to your body, whereas like you can't go pitch every day. Otherwise, you're going to really screw up your arm. They don't throw every day. They have very
don't.
specific programs, and off season they probably need some recovery time too to get geared up for a long season.
True, but you also have to maintain your arm. You can't just sit and be stationary
I get
for
it. They
4
do.
months.
They do. They probably do like long, light toss. They probably try to
You got to make your shoulders stronger. You
keep
got to
the
make all
shoulder
those
strong for
little
sure, but also
ligaments
give it
stronger.
some recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. As with any sports. So
No doubt. Well, it'll be interesting to follow, but I really loved this thread on Twitter that I found, and I really loved thinking about how it might change the future of baseball. Like at the same time while I was reading it, it was just because it was like, man, could you imagine just as somebody that did both, you know, pitching and hitting in high school baseball, you know, like, could you imagine just being able to take unlimited batting practice off of yourself? Ohtani could finally face himself. That would be like the simulator dream matchup. Babe Ruth on Babe Ruth action.
Oh gosh, don't give them any ideas.
Oh, I will give them all the ideas and more as long as they pay me for those ideas. You heard it here first on the Kanika Baseball Podcast. Copyright it 2025. You can print it.
All right.
Damn right. We did it live, Nika. We had literally very little notes for this podcast. I'm impressed. I thought it was really, really fun to talk about this with you and share the tales of Jaden Daniels and the German VR company, Cognitive. Is that what they're called?
No, they are called Cognalize.
Cognalize. Thank you. Sorry, Cognalize.
They've been founded in 2019, and they became partners with the LSU to test their product.
Well, it was awesome. And Todd Jacob at the end of this says, shout out to the guys over at Sideline Talks for video and inspiration for this thread. So since he's crediting them for his thread, I feel like after we read his thread on the air, we should credit the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to go see where the original inspiration for this thread that we read on our podcast originated from, please go check out Sideline Talks on YouTube, everybody. All right.
Who's going to win the Sunday football game?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, Nika. I think I'm going to have to say Washington is going to beat the Eagles after knowing that Jaden Daniels has been practicing against them at 2x speed all week, basically.
Yeah, me too. I'm going with the underdog, which are the Commanders.
Okay. And then we have Buffalo and Kansas City. Is Buffalo, the Tatanka, finally going to conquer the Chieftain?
I sure hope so.
Oh, I saw a blurb today, by the way, that Mahomes admitted that he flopped on that play and kind of regrets it in retrospect. And it's like, bullshit, buddy. I just
the other team the game.
Yeah. What, are you going to go back in time and replay the game from that point? No, you're not. So he should just stay quiet at this point. But yeah, those two calls against him or against the Texans, was it?
Texans, yeah.
That was some bunk. If you ever seen some bunk.
Yeah.
I get that they want to protect these guys, but you got to let them play football, too, at a playoff level. And you got to let them hit with their shoulders. That's what they're doing. Yeah. And they're not. Anyways, yeah, hopefully we have some clean officiating this weekend. And in the meantime, I hope everyone enjoyed this episode, this special VR episode of the Kanika Baseball Podcast, and let us know your thoughts on the future, everybody, when we post this on social media and stuff, because I think we're going to be entering the era of hitting. It's going to be a hitter's era, baby, because of tech.
I'm putting you down for this.
Write it in red ink, baby, the most elusive of signatures and Topps cards. Can give me that red ink signature. I put my stamp on it. All right, everybody, enjoy the football this weekend and enjoy the future of sports. We'll be back in the future, I promise, with another episode, and we'll be talking regular baseball stuff again.
Right,
so stay tuned. More signings, more offseason preparation, and spring training just around the corner, everybody. Stay tuned. Adios.